Hi, this is Alex again, and in this video, if you're following in order, you know that we're going to talk about faces for your characters. So the first important thing is that you find a good picture of your character for reference. You probably should have done this when you were deciding which character you were going to make, but this is when it is actually essential. So the first most important thing is the eyes for your character, and I have just a few as examples. If you can tell, we have different color eyes here, so he has blue eyes, they're black, just kind of a light gray, and then green. And so on these two, I have used specifically added little black pupils out of felt to give a little bit of definition because the color is lighter. On these two, I didn't because it's darker and they blended in too much. So I just added highlights instead on all of them. The highlights, personally, I've been putting them both on the outside. If you're drawing, you would probably put one on the inside, one on the outside. You can do that also. Personally, I just kind of liked how this looked a little bit better, so that's what I have chosen to do. You'll also notice that they have different shapes to the eyes. He's got a little bit more of a droopy kind of shape. His are just kind of straight across. His are also kind of more along those lines. Here we have on these two, you can see a little more of like that curve on the corner. Here you notice it doesn't have anything that comes under. It's just whatever fits your character better, any shape that kind of delineates what matches their character. Also, I have done my eyes very detailed just because that's personally how I prefer to do them. I will include a little printout that will have some examples here. These are just a few options. Honestly, if you have a different type of eye that you want to do, go for it. Whatever fits your character best and your vision for what you want your plushie to look like. So this one would be just a solid color with a couple little highlights. This is kind of how I've been doing mine. This would be if you have a character who always keeps their eyes closed and is always smiling. Same thing here. This is kind of a smiling expression. This would be just a flat round circle. If you're familiar with the pop figures, it's kind of that style. You could just do it in whatever color their eyes are. Also, I have done all my eyes in felt, but if you are really good at embroidery, that is also a look that is really nice on plushies. So go for it. If you want to embroider them on, that is definitely possible. Drawing them on might be a little trickier with the felt because of the nature of the material. Your pens would tend to get a little stuck, but I'm sure it could be possible if you did. The other thing that you will notice on all my plushies is that I don't put noses. I think it kind of makes them look a little funny because they're chibis, and most chibis that I am familiar with don't have noses. If you want to, you can definitely add them. Personally, I don't. The other thing is eyebrows. You'll notice that I always do just a little strip of felt for my eyebrows. In drawing, I have learned that the eyebrows give more expression than any other part of your face, so you need to just match your expression basically that you're trying to do with the eyebrows. So you'll notice his are a little more straight across because he's always a little bit serious and grumpy. His are a teensy bit more lifted, and you'll be able to tell different expressions on each character a lot through their eyebrows. The other thing is that on most people, their eyebrow color matches their hair. And you'll notice that I've done that. So I have white and white, brown and brown. You can't really see his through his bangs. Black and black, and blonde. So the eyebrows also, it does help if you watched the last video, that little trick I gave about coating the back of your felt in a tiny bit of glue because it is a thin piece and it will fall apart. You can also just draw them on. For lighter colors, if you have nail polish, that could probably work too for doing things like eyebrows or like a highlight in the eye if you have like white nail polish or something. Just do a thin, like drop little thin line. I'm sure that would work. I haven't tried it yet, but that will be an experiment for next time. So the last thing, obviously, on a plushie is you need a mouth. Well, you don't always need a mouth. If you want to do yours, again, kind of pop figure style, they don't have mouths. You don't need it. That would actually be very cute look for your plushies. On mine, you'll notice I just have a couple different expressions here. I will also include kind of a printout that has some different expressions. So you see I have like the little smiley, I have a little kitty mouth, I have kind of a smirk, just a straight, the three mouth because that's adorable, and then just a big smile. So on mine, I have here, you'll notice, I have just like the little pouty mouth, kind of a smirk on these two, just a cute little smile over here. So just whatever fits your character best, their personality, and what type of expression you want to do. So to continue, I'm going to scoot these guys a little ways up to give me more space. So in our last video, we ended with our hair pinned to the face. Personally, I always like to pin my hair on first, and then I worry about attaching it permanently after I get the face on. I just like to do this so that I have my guide for where my bangs are going to be falling, where my hairline's going to be. So when I start attaching features, I can kind of gauge how far down the face they need to be, how far up. It helps me to make sure I don't end up with a funny looking plushie. And that's difficult to do if you have it already completely attached and you can't move anything. And also because if you're doing longer bangs, your eyes will be partially covered by the bangs. In many cases, you may only need one eye because you have bangs that completely cover half of the face. So in that case, obviously, you don't want to have your hair glued down before your eyes are there because you won't be able to get your eyes underneath. So what I have done here is I just kind of pick some random colors. So there's a completed eye. So how I make my eyes, so how I've done it on all of these guys, is I usually just start kind of with the basic shape in black. And then I cut out a circle or kind of a half circle depending on how big their eyes are going to be, how round they're going to be, to just kind of match that shape. Obviously, if you have kind of a wide-eyed, happy character, you're going to make their eyes a little bit rounder. If they're a little more serious, you make them a little bit smaller, a little bit straighter. So what I usually do is I prefer just to use glue gun and just put a little bit of glue across the top of the eye and then attach my eyelashes to the top, kind of press them together until they're done. Until the glue is dry. Doing it this way, it will stick to your fingers. If you are very sensitive to the heat of a glue gun, don't do it this way. Just use either Elmer's glue, or if you want to just do a different type of eye that doesn't require eyelashes, that's definitely possible. And you'll see here I have a little bit of glue that stuck out over the edge, or that got squished out when I pressed them together, so I just like to trim that off. Just using scissors. Again, if you have small scissors, now is the time. And then also, if you want to do this type of eye, but maybe you don't want to burn your fingers, it's very possible to just use tweezers also. I have these that are specifically sewing tweezers, so it makes it kind of easy just to like hold it. If you want to use another pair of tweezers, just kind of put it in and then maybe grab the bottom and like squish it together. Whatever keeps your fingers safe from burning yourself. So for this, then the next thing I need to do, let's see, so I have my two eyes. I need to put the highlight in them. Normally, because of these, I've just drawn on my iris, or not my iris, my pupil in these. If you're gluing on a pupil, you would just cut out a little tiny black circle, plop it in the middle, just glue it in, attach it somehow. You can also sew it, or just embroider it in. That totally works too. Oops, there goes my white. So for this, I would just cut a tiny piece of white felt. It is very tiny. This is when tweezers are very handy. So what I would do is just put a tiny glob, like super tiny glob, of hot glue. And I love the strings that hot glue leaves behind. It makes my life so much messier. And then just using my tweezers, I just kind of plop that white in, just fix it a little bit, push it down. I've burned my finger so many times that I don't really feel it anymore, so I can just squish it in and flatten it down until it's dry. And then after that's done, the white felt that I have is a little bit thicker, so it tends to not land exactly how I like it, so I just like to come in with my scissors and kind of trim off a bit, just the bits that stick out where I don't want them, and then come and fix, runaway eye, and then come and fix the glue bits that stick out. Okay. So then once you have that, you have kind of your basic eye. And for these, because of how I was doing it, I just, like I said, I just drew in the pupil. So what I do is I just come in with a fine Sharpie, and I don't color in these pupils when I do them like this. I just kind of draw like a half circle C thing. And there you go. So you could always, if you're coloring them in instead, color it completely in instead of just doing the line like I do. I know it's kind of hard to see the tiny little details. So let's see if you can kind of see that. See how I just do kind of like a half circle. It's all depends on what type of character you have, what type of look you're going for. Just use whatever is the best. And so the last thing I like to do, once I have these done, is just kind of figure out where I'm going to put them. So like for this, if I just put them here, I can kind of tuck them under the hair, see how that's going to look. Oh, that came out. My poor character looks so sad. I don't know why. I gave him kind of sad eyes, but that, oh, that's a little silly. Okay, but that's fine. I can always just kind of tilt him in a little bit if I want to make him look a little grumpy, or maybe tilt him up a teensy bit if I want to make him a little more, come on, maybe a little more happy looking. Because of how my hair comes here, I don't really have any eyebrow space, so I'm not going to worry about doing eyebrows. But normally what I would do is just cut a tiny strip of this and then take off the hair, place my eyebrows, glue them down, or alternately you could just embroider a little bit on, and that would work out perfectly well too. It might actually be easier just to embroider it instead of trying to glue it down. So then once you have that, you're going to just glue your eyes in place. Usually what I do is put a tiny drop of glue just to hold them down and then take off the hair and then glue the rest of the eye on. But the last thing I want to show you how to do is how to do a mouth. So I'm just going to quickly embroider one because all of these are done with felt, but I just kind of want to give you an idea of what it would look like if you just embroider your mouth on. So let's see. So I just have a piece of black thread, and I'm just going to give him a little kitty mouth because personally those are the ones I like. So you just kind of find where you want your mouth to go. That seems about centered. And then I'm just going to give him little with my double thread. I think this is thick enough for me. If you're doing, depending on how dark you want your mouth to stand out, you can do different, maybe do it like a double loop of thread so you have, go over it twice so it comes out a little bit darker. So I have a little mouth there now. So I'll just tie this off in the back and then I will have his face completed.